Have you ever felt like you're just constantly rushing towards what's next? Or maybe that the past feels, well, kind of like a distant country, one that people are always arguing about. It's a feeling a lot of us probably share, right? But what if it's not just personal? What if it's actually fundamental to how our whole civilization operates? Today, we're doing a deep dive into America's specific relationship with time, how we see the past, the present, and the future. It's a really interesting way to understand ourselves, actually. Our mission here is to explore this idea that the U.S. is heavily focused on the future, maybe remembers the past kind of selectively, and lives in a really fast-moving present. We'll even compare this to some ancient civilizations to see, the strengths and maybe the weaknesses of this whole approach. And to help us unpack this, we're looking at insights from America's Future Focus, a temporal paradox. It's got some really thought-provoking stuff on this phenomenon. So let's start there. When we say America is a future-driven civilization, what does that actually look like day to day? How does it really play out?
Well, it's a really core part of the culture, you know? It
Hmm.
shows up most obviously as this powerful innovation mindset. Just think about our technology, our science, our economy. It's almost always pushing towards what's next, isn't it?
Yeah, constantly.
The source points to things like, well, space exploration, obviously, the huge leaps in AI we're seeing, and that constant drive for, say, renewable energy. It's much less about preserving what we have and more about actively making tomorrow. And it's not just about gadgets. It really shapes this deep progress narrative we have in the US. We tend to see history as, well, as a line going upwards, improvement.
Mm.
Each generation is sort of expected to do better, build bigger, go faster than the last one.
Right, that expectation is huge.
Exactly. But what's really interesting is that this future focus isn't just one simple thing. It's actually this mix of intense optimism, this belief that the future is buildable, full of hope, and at the same time, quite a bit of anxiety, worrying about the climate crisis or automation taking jobs or what happens next globally.
So it's both
Mhm.
hope and fear driving us forward.
Precisely. Think about the Silicon Valley optimism to change the world coexisting with the urgent warnings from climate scientists. Both are totally future focused, but in really different ways. And this duality, this push and pull, means we're always pushing boundaries, but also kind of always on edge, makes long-term planning tricky,
Hmm.
walking that line between hope and fear.
That really clicks. And you can probably feel this in your own life, right?
Yeah.
How does this future thing impact your choices, your career, maybe chasing the next big industry, or even
Yeah.
just the news you read, always focused on what might happen? It definitely feels like we often have one foot planted firmly in tomorrow.
So if we're driving forward so hard, looking ahead, what does that do to the rearview mirror? What happens to yesterday and all this? How does America deal with its past? Or do we just leave it behind?
It's definitely not left behind, but it's
Yeah.
complicated. The source calls it a selective memory of the past.
I know.
It's not like ancient Egypt or maybe imperial China where there's this long, strong tradition of looking back, venerating ancestors, drawing legitimacy from this unbroken line. We don't really do that, do we?
Not in the same way. Instead, our past is very often contested. History isn't some settled story written in stone. It's constantly being reinterpreted, argued over, often in ways that fuel today's debates about who we are, about justice, about our national values.
Okay, yeah. Examples.
Well, think about the really passionate arguments we have about the legacy of slavery or the meaning of the civil rights movement, or even how we view the founding fathers, their ideals versus their actions. These aren't just academic debates, right? They happen in public, online, everywhere. They're central to how we see ourselves now.
Absolutely. It feels very present.
It makes our relationship with the past feel very restless, as the source puts it. We're always rewriting, re-examining sometimes, maybe forgetting or downplaying things to fit a current need or story. And while reevaluating is sometimes crucial for progress, for justice, the downside can be a lack of those stable, shared stories that maybe hold a society together. Does that make sense? You lose some connective tissue, perhaps?
It does make sense. You see it playing out all the time. Like you said, debates over monuments, what goes in textbooks.
Right.
That restless relationship is definitely visible. And yeah, the stakes feel high. Okay, so we've got a future we're rushing towards, a past we're constantly debating. What about right now? The present? Does it just get squeezed in the middle? Overlooked?
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, the source describes the American present as fast and fleeting. Our culture moves at incredible speed. Think about it. The news cycle refreshes constantly. Social media trends blow up and disappear in days. The economy shifts, demand quick
It's
reactions.
exhausting sometimes.
It is. The now gets consumed super quickly like a viral TikTok or breaking news, and then poof, it's replaced by the next thing, the next event, the next outrage, the next trend. And this rapid turnover makes the present feel, well, less stable than in many older civilizations, where maybe long-standing rituals or traditions or just a slower pace of life gave people an anchor, a sense of solid ground in their daily lives.
So the present isn't really a place we dwell, or like something we pass through quickly.
Kind of, yeah. It can feel less like solid ground and more like a fast-moving river we're just trying to navigate without falling out of the boat.
Wow. That constant motion, that quick consumption.
Yeah.
What does that really mean for how we experience our lives day to day? Does it change how the now actually feels? Maybe it makes us feel constantly behind?
I think it absolutely does. The big implication is this kind of persistent sense of urgency and maybe, yeah, a lack of deep presence. When the now is so temporary, it's hard to really savor it or even fully process what's happening before the next thing comes along. We're often already thinking about the next notification, the next task.
An next distraction.
Exactly. It's not just about being busy. It sort of shapes our whole perception of time, our ability to reflect, maybe even connect deeply with what's right in front of us. It's a culture that implicitly whispers, keep looking forward, even when you're just trying to stand still for a second.
That's really striking to think about. So, okay, how does this whole American way of dealing with time, future-focused, restless past, fleeting present, how does it compare to other civilizations? Ones that saw time completely differently.
Yeah, this is where the comparisons get really fascinating because they highlight just how unique this American approach is and how each civilization kind of built a time view that fit its world. So America is definitely not like ancient Egypt. For Egyptians, stability and order were paramount. Those massive monuments built for eternity, their focus on the afterlife, it all provided cosmic order.
Right. Permanence was key.
Totally. An ancient Egyptian looking at us might be completely bewildered, maybe even think we're disrespectful. They'd ask, where's the reverence for what lasts? Where are the roots?
Makes sense. What about others?
Well, we're also fundamentally not like many Mesoamerican cultures. They often saw time as cyclical, which, makes a lot of sense if you're dealing with unpredictable climates, cosmic cycles.
Cycles give predictability, maybe meaning.
Exactly. Meaning predictability, a way to understand destruction and renewal. A Mesoamerican observer might look at our straight line of progress and warn us, if you forget the cycles, the ups and downs, you're just going to repeat mistakes. You lose the wisdom of the pattern.
That's a powerful thought. So who are we closer to then?
Probably closest, the source suggests, to ancient Rome or Greece. They also had that strong drive for progress, for legacy, innovation, establishing law, influencing the future. They were ambitious empires driven by progress and leaving a mark. Greeks and Romans would likely recognize our drive, our ambition for greatness.
But maybe find us a bit frantic.
Yeah, probably. Much faster. Definitely more restless, perhaps less grounded in some of their classical ideals.
Okay, so similar drive, different speed, and maybe depth.
Something like that. But there's a key difference even there. America is arguably even more intensely future-leaning than Rome was. We often seem to value novelty, disruption, the new, even more than continuity or tradition, always chasing the next new thing.
Which brings up that question again. What needs does our framework fit? Clearly, it suits rapid innovation, the pace of change we live in.
Right. But maybe not other things. The source mentions China, for instance, traditionally valuing harmony, continuity, balancing past and future for stability. A classical Chinese perspective might look at the U.S. and say the balance is off. Too much future, maybe not enough respect for the past's foundations.
It really shows how these time perspectives are deeply tied to a civilization's core values and needs. So, bring it back home. This intense American future focus, this whole unique dance with time, what are the big takeaways? The gifts and the costs. It sounds like a real double-edged sword.
It absolutely is, and seeing both edges is crucial. Let's start with the strengths, because they're undeniable. This future focus fuels incredible innovation and progress. It really does. Think about medical breakthroughs, tech evolution, space travel, even pushes for civil rights. A lot of that comes from believing tomorrow can be better and we can build it.
That optimism is powerful.
Immensely powerful. It fosters this deep cultural optimism, the sense that challenges are solvable, and it also makes society remarkably adaptable. We can pivot quickly, change direction when needed, embrace new ideas. That's vital today.
Okay, so innovation, optimism, adaptability, huge strengths. What's on the other side of the sword?
Well, there are significant weaknesses. One is what the source calls a potentially shallow memory. Because we're so focused forward, we can sometimes forget or maybe oversimplify important history. We lose lessons, we might repeat mistakes.
Historical amnesia, kind of?
Yeah, or at least a vulnerability to it. Another big one is the potential for widespread anxiety and burnout. Constantly chasing the future, measuring ourselves against what's next. It can make the present feel unstable, less meaningful. It puts a huge strain on people.
The always-on culture.
Exactly. And finally, there's the big risk of short-termism. Our fast culture, you see it in politics, the economy. Sometimes environmental policy often prioritizes immediate gains over long-term sustainability. Quarterly reports over generational well-being, maybe. Quick fixes over deep solutions.
Right. Sacrificing the long view for the quick win.
That's a good way to put it.
It's really something to weigh that incredible engine of innovation against the risk of forgetting where we came from or burning ourselves out chasing tomorrow. I imagine you listening probably see bits of both these strengths and weaknesses playing out all around you, right? In your community or just in the national conversation. We're living this paradox. So we've really dug into America's particular way of experiencing time today, that strong pull towards the future, the restless debate over the past, the incredibly fast present. And it's clear, right? There's no single right way to live with time. Each culture's approach fits its needs, its values, its circumstances. But the source we looked at leaves us with a powerful thought. America excels at creating the future, no doubt. Innovation, progress, amazing energy there. But does it risk losing some wisdom from the past? Maybe some meaning in the present? The most enduring civilizations often found some kind of balance, didn't they? Honoring memory, living fully in the now with rituals and connections, and building for tomorrow. We've explored all that, so maybe the question for you to think about is, what could a more balanced American approach to time look like? One that keeps our innovative spirit but maybe values continuity too. And maybe more personally, how could you cultivate a more balanced sense of time in your own life? Finding ways to connect with your past, be more present today while still looking towards and building your future. Something to chew on.